Lilian Greenwood.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker, for calling me to deliver my maiden speech to the House during today's debate on Europe. And I congratulate the honourable members for Wyre Forest, Brighton Kemp Town, Wirral South, York Outer, Newcastle North, Sunderland Central and North Warwickshire on their fine speeches. It's an honour and a privilege to be in this chamber representing the people of Nottingham South. And I'm particularly proud to be the first woman to represent our city in Parliament. When I was a little girl, my dad often talked about his mother, who I never met, but whose name I share. He told me that although she was bright and won a place at grammar school, she was unable to take up the place because my great-grandfather thought that education was wasted on girls. A generation later, my own mother, the daughter of a Lancashire clogmaker, also had limited educational opportunities. Her teachers at secondary school asked her to help with the younger pupils, but there was no opportunity for her to take public exams, and she left school without a single qualification. That the abilities of these two women were squandered or ignored on the basis of their sex or their class infuriated and inspired me as a child. It made me determined to grasp every opportunity I had, but it also made me want to fight to ensure that every girl or young woman, many of whom didn't have the support and encouragement that my parents gave me, could fulfil their potential. And so I'm delighted to be here to speak for the men and the women of Nottingham South. I hope that many honourable members have already had the opportunity to visit the Queen of the Midlands, as Nottingham is sometimes known. If you have, then you will know it is a fine city with a long and fascinating history. But as there are 3 MPs, you may be wondering which of its delights are within my own constituency. I hope that my honourable friends who represent Nottingham North and Nottingham East will forgive me if I claim to have more than my fair share of the best bits, and particularly the ones which demonstrate the innovation our city prides itself on. Nottingham South is home to the oldest inn in England, Ye Old Trip to Jerusalem, carved into the sandstone caves at the base of Castle Rock. The Camellia House at Woolerton Hall is the oldest cast-iron glass house in Europe, and we have in Notts County the world's oldest professional association football club. But Nottingham is not just a historic place, it is an industrial city, and whilst the lace workshops may have disappeared, and sadly so too the factory producing thousands of rally bicycles, Nottingham has shown its resilience and other enterprises have sprung up to take their place. We are a modern European city, home to many thriving businesses, employing cutting-edge science and technology to produce products and services for the 21st century, and our employers include Boots, Experian and Speedo. And it's no coincidence that Nottingham is developing as a science city when it has not 1 but 2 world-class universities. My immediate predecessor, Alan Simpson, is a graduate of Nottingham Trent University and was a student at the time when the cost of study was borne by the public purse. I know that the taxpayers of Nottingham have had great value for money when it comes to Alan because he has been an outstanding representative for our city. Everyone I've spoken to in the past few weeks, whether members or staff in this house, have told me how much they liked Alan and how much he will be missed. I say everyone, but I must confess that when I went to visit the Whip's office, I did detect some relief. For Alan was fiercely independent and never afraid to stand up for those things he believed in, even when it incurred the wrath of his colleagues. Perhaps his greatest achievement has been to secure recognition that climate change poses an immense and immediate threat to our planet, and that we must take action urgently to address it. I know that although Alan has retired from Parliament, he will continue to enjoy being a thorn in the side of any government or opposition that fails to grasp the importance of protecting the environment for future generations. I've never asked Alan why he decided to stand for Parliament, but I had only one reason for becoming an MP: to make a difference. And I know that sounds rather grand, but let me explain. I've spent my whole working life representing working people, many of them low-paid or part-time, most of them women, and 18 of those years have been spent in Nottingham as a trade union organiser for Unison. My first few years were depressing times for anyone seeking to defend public services and the people who provide them. Hard-working and committed and caring people who've often sacrificed pay and perks to do those jobs which are not just socially useful, but vitally important to every one of us. In the early 1990s, when I started, local government, the health service and higher education lacked the investment they required. But what a difference a Labour government made. For many low-paid workers in Nottingham, from care workers to bar staff, the introduction of the national minimum wage meant a pay rise. For my own children and those of many constituents, Labour's investment in education meant they were taught in brand new classrooms with state-of-the-art IT facilities rather than in leaky porter cabins. For young people with little prospect of work or an education, a Labour government brought new jobs, apprenticeships and university places. And for thousands of Nottingham pensioners, the winter fuel allowance meant that they no longer had to worry about switching on the heating in the colder months. I'm proud of Labour's achievements, but I want more, and so do the people I represent. As we begin a period in opposition, I will stand up for the people of Nottingham South, for their families and for our city, to ensure that those things that have changed their lives for the better are preserved and built upon, to fight for effective action to free them from poverty and inequality, and to strive for a better future for every one of them. Unfortunately, I fear that the so-called new politics which the members opposite are so keen to talk about may provide a pleasing soundbite, but be of no use to the people I seek to represent. I fear that the drive for efficiencies and cutting waste, which the Chancellor's team are so intent on, will actually take us back to a time as bad as that I remember in the 1980s. A time when millions faced the misery of unemployment with no prospect of real help or support. When public housing was either sold off or allowed to deteriorate so that only those in desperate need would want to live there. A time when it was normal to wait for months and even years for hospital treatment. My constituents do not want to return to those times, and it's my duty and responsibility to ensure that their voice is heard, their questions are answered, and their hopes and aspirations met. Amongst the most pressing of their concerns are the future of several capital investment projects planned for the city. The widening of the A453, a vital link between Nottingham and the M1, which is of huge importance to the local economy, to local businesses and to local people coping with the danger and inconvenience heavy congestion brings. They want to know why this has been deferred and for how long, and whether the new government appreciates the cost of this delay. Constituents are also concerned about Phase 2 of Nottingham's tram network. Last summer, the previous government committed £530 million to help build 2 additional lines. This development will regenerate parts of the city, further develop our excellent public transport infrastructure, and encourage more people to leave their cars at home, choosing instead this clean green alternative. It will also provide between 4,000 and 10,000 new jobs. But is the funding secure? During the election, I was asked about the new school building for Farnborough School in Clifton and whether it would go ahead if Labour were re-elected. I was happy to assure the Chair of Governors that it would, but what shall I tell him now? And what can I tell the other heads and governors and parents and pupils whose schools were due to be rebuilt or refurbished under Building Schools for the Future? And what can I tell council tenants waiting for new kitchens, new bathrooms, windows and doors under the Decent Homes programme? Over the coming months, I shall be raising these concerns, and I apologise now if honourable members tire of them, but I'm here to press the government on these issues, and because they're the ones that matter to my constituents. I'm delighted to conclude my first speech to the House, and pleased that in a while I can head back to my constituency and my family. It's a journey I'll be making on many occasions, and so don't be surprised when I press the government on electrification of the line to Nottingham and for a high-speed rail link to bring our city closer to the heart of Europe. Not just because I understand the need for great transport links and the vital importance of staying close to those whom I represent. I know also that I must always try to get home before my 3 daughters' bedtime on a Thursday night.